goes a long way. It's 2 or 3 times.
Okay, we might just get started now. Okay, I want to open the meeting at 5:30. Okay, welcome everyone. Tonight we have 3 guests for us, and they are Mayor Liz Innes, and then we have Stephen Gibbs, who is the project coordinator for Mackay Park, and Lindsay Usher, the Director for Planning and Sustainability Services. So welcome to you, thank you for coming on.
Thank you.
Have we got any apologies?
Jenny McCarthy. She's would love to be here, but she's in hospital.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I have a few. I have Rodney Weather, Joanne Chapman, Annette Klimberg, Tanya and John Nugent, Anne Gamble, Ian Hardy, and Julian Rick-Balecki, and Sue Hutland and Jenny McCarthy.
For the members, has everyone read the minutes? Okay, would you like to move? Would you like to move the minutes be accepted? And can we have a seconder for those minutes, please? No.
I wasn't on the sense.
Okay, have we got any business arising from those minutes? Correspondence. We've had correspondence both in and out from Kelly Pasanos from BBIACC Shire Council, organising some new question and answer sheets which are on the front table if anyone would like to take one. We've got correspondence in from the Batemans Bay Chamber of Commerce regarding the media release from BBIACC Shire Council. And regarding the architects that came out to all the members. Correspondence in from Lindsay Usher inviting to inviting to come to the focus groups regarding discussions about Mackay Park. From Liz Innes in reply to my letter, we had various questions on it, and one from Corinne Appleby from BBIACC Shire Council with a media release regarding the money from the federal government. Barb, have you got a treasurer's report for us?
Yes, I do have a treasurer's report. Okay, financial statement. The reconciliation is from the 20th of September to the 29th of October 2018. Income on the 21st of September, we had income of $825.05 for the Bunnings barbecue, and the 28th of September we had $219.60 from the Father's Day at Bunnings. So we had a credit balance of $4,162.89. Now we didn't have any expenses, and we didn't do anything with the term deposit, which currently is standing at $72,513.17. And so, all in all, in our cash book and our money in the term deposit, we have $76,676.06. There's 4 sixes in that. This world's not through. And that's it.
So, Barbara Johnson moved that be accepted?
Yes, would somebody like to move that at all?
And seconded by Dee.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, I'm just going to fundraising. As you all know, we do some fundraising to just raise money towards all those extra things we're going to need at the new centre. Since the last meeting, we have had 2 stalls and a barbecue, and we also were at the Health Expo. So that was all. Didn't actually do any fundraising at the Health Expo, but it's all about being out there and being able to talk to the public. So upcoming, we have another stall on the 17th of November. If anyone would like to help Dee out with that one, please speak to Dee. And we have a barbecue on Friday the 14th of November. So again, we will need a couple of extra helpers there. So speak to me about that one. Right, okay, well, the other day, when was it? Last Wednesday and Thursday, we had a number of meetings, or council organised a number of meetings, and we represented you guys. There was Pam, myself, Jackie, Sue was there, Noel, that I know from this group, that went to various focus groups. So there was a number of those. So we had focus groups from schools, healthcare providers, retirement, residential care facilities, sporting clubs, swimming pool users, arts community, business sector and community groups. So it was a good cross-section. So yeah, it was really, really interesting to go along to that, and it's great to be able to put forward a few ideas. And so that's what we've been doing as our committee in the last month. But the main reason we're here tonight, I suppose, is to find out what's happening next. So Liz, would you like to make the announcement of that?
Well, I think pretty much, but yes, I would. But I think pretty much everybody is aware that we had an announcement from the federal government for us to go forward with the second stage of our grant funding application and put forward our case for $25 million. My understanding, and I'll let Lindsay probably tease out a little bit more about what that means and what else that we need to do to make sure that we really lock in that $25 million and secure it. And it needs to be in our bank account before we really do that final dance. But you know, my understanding is they don't make these types of offers to allocate that type of funding. They don't make those decisions very lightly. So the fact that we have put forward a substantial business case, the fact that we have worked so hard collectively as a community and with council support is very reflective in their confidence for them to have made that announcement. Prior to them making the announcement, we obviously were going ahead, but we were seriously looking at, you know, how we would still be able to deliver a facility for our community, but without having that commitment of that extra funding. We were looking at options that were available to us, and one of those options obviously was a staged approach. We're delighted to be able to say that now we can start to seriously go forward and do the whole thing in, you know, as one major project without really having to look at serious staging options, which is absolutely fantastic. I got a call from a very excited Anne Sue Marlis from New York, which was fantastic to hear from her. She expressed that for her, this was one of those wonderful things that she felt really good about, being able to work towards trying to secure this funding for us. And she said, you know, setting aside what has gone on with her political career, that she felt that it was really important that she followed this through, and that she was really delighted to have been able to make that announcement and, you know, help us as a community deliver something that our community has waited a very long time for. You all did get to meet the architects, and I have no doubt that, like myself, a lot of you would have been very impressed by the breadth of knowledge that they have and that they brought to the table, plus the vision that they, you know, the expertise and the enthusiasm that they brought. You know, I had to kind of, when I met them, temper my enthusiasm down a little bit, because we were still in that staging, you know, realistically, that was where we were at when we met them. But, you know, it was one of the functions that you held with your fashion parade. And I remember talking to people and I said, you know, we've got this opportunity to influence the aquatic space, which can be a bit sort of sports orientated, and we've got an opportunity to make that something beautiful with the element of the arts thing. And that, you know, at the time I went, can you imagine if we had a runway going down the middle of the pool and lighting? And they went, now you might be getting a little bit of it. So, you know, it was kind of funny because, you know, that was where I was going with some of the visioning, and they're going, well, even for an architect, they'll go, I think we need to keep a lid on this now. So, look, we still have some work to do. As I said, Lindsay will probably go through a little bit more detail. I know there's people out there that still want to drill down and get a lot of in-depth information, whatever. We've had some series of questions asked, and Council will be answering those in formally in writing, which is entirely appropriate. I don't think tonight's probably not the night to go down and into all of that detail, but certainly if there's any questions that people really want information on, we'll take questions on notice and absolutely make an effort to get them back to you. So I guess that's really it from me, other than to say an absolute congratulations, Caroline, to your committee and the commitment that you all collectively have come to this the approach that you've approached it with is phenomenal. Your commitment, your dedication, the hard work that you've put in over many, many years. And I know firsthand that that is why we have these senior politicians, both federally and state, that have absolutely backed this and, you know, done everything within their power to make sure that they deliver, because they know that this is well supported within the community. They know just how much work's gone into it. They know how much it's going to be valued by the community. So it is absolutely a reflection of their belief in us as a community. And I mean that as in groups like yours and council. So they know that when they come to us and they give us this money, they know that collectively as a community and council, we will deliver it. So that's a massive vote of confidence in the work that you guys have done over many, many years. So, you know, I'm really proud to be able to say that we've played a small part in it, but I know full well that the congratulations sit well and truly within community groups like yours. So congratulations, Caroline and Jackie, and to all of you that have worked so very hard to get this outcome. I know that you'll all keep doing your fundraising, because I can see some beautiful elements that you'll be able to bring into the aquatic space. And Stephen might just give you a little bit also of an overview on the workshops and other things. There were some pretty interesting recurring things. I didn't attend any of them. I think it was sort of important that people got to, you know, have their say, and we certainly will wait, we'll anticipate, you know, the report that's given back to us. But I just say to you all, congratulations.
Thanks, Liz. Well, on behalf of the present financial members and everybody that's ever been a member of our committee, thank you for those words, because we have worked hard, and it's nice to be appreciated, and it's great to see all our work paying off. So we appreciate it, and it's been great working with you guys. So yeah, let's continue it, and let's get it finished now.
We've just got to build it. We've got to get that money in our bank account, and we've got to get on and build it.
And we'll finish it off, and we'll continue with our fundraising. You know, those small bits here and there, but it's an opportunity to be out there with the public and let them know, and so that they feel part of it as well. Okay, who'd like to go next?
I might say a few words if you like.
Okay.
It was really good, as the Mayor said, it was really exciting news when we heard that our federal government grant applications would move through to the next stage. We first of all received a media release, which was fantastic news. Since then I've received a letter from the Deputy Prime Minister, I was going to say Premier, Deputy Prime Minister, confirming the advice that was contained in the media release. So that was good to receive. And we've since then also received a letter from the actual department who manages the grant or administers the grant process. So we'll be taking the opportunity to have a phone conference with the department or representatives to talk through our application to date, to see whether they can provide us any feedback in terms of how we can strengthen the case that we've got. We are in a strong position because we've already done a lot of the business case work that was required. So Jenny Barrett, who's our grants officer and does a fantastic job of putting together our grant applications, has already got a lot of that information. She's gone through already the template which we need to fill in and believes we're in a pretty strong position in terms of the information required, but we'll double check that with the agency before finalising and then resubmitting that. So although we haven't got the money in the bank, very big step forward, and I'm certainly feeling much more confident than I was a couple of weeks ago. I was certainly starting to get grey hairs a few weeks ago in terms of how we're going to deliver something with the $26 million, which was split between 18 and 8. And trying to build half a theatre doesn't quite work, as you would all know. So we're in a really good position, I think, now in terms of hopefully getting full funding for the development which we've been working towards delivering on behalf of the community, and which there's 30 years or more of people, both in the arts side and the aquatic side, have had people wanting to see these facilities built. So I think we're getting that step closer and a lot more confidence in terms of delivering on behalf of the community. As you know, we've appointed BBIACC Architecture to work with us. They've got a team of specialists in the aquatics and arts and engineering fields working with them in regard to that. Last week we had 2 and a bit days of forums or workshops. Myself and Steve attended all of them. I attended the majority of them. Just as observers to have a little bit of a listen to the debate and discussion. The level of energy in the room and the discussion was really, really good to hear and observe. A lot of strength in the community around the facility and what's been planned, and certainly the type of facilities we're proposing or have been proposing, a lot of support for that as well, particularly in terms of the warm water therapy component. There was not a big meeting that we had over the 2 and a bit days where that support for that wasn't raised, even with some of the schools which we weren't aware. Some of the schools have disability classes, and they're really excited about the opportunity to integrate learning with therapy in the centre, not only just in the therapy pool, but also in the arts component as well, which was great. So those 2 days were designed to enable user groups to give feedback to the architects about how they would use the facility and the ideas they had around use, and also their vision in terms of what the facility might look like and how it might relate to the locale, and also how it would fit more broadly into the Batemans Bay area. So at the end of the 2 and a bit days, and I know, as I said, I didn't go to all the sessions, went to most, but everyone was pretty tired by the end of it. On 2 big days, they started at 7 o'clock in the morning and finished at about 7:30 in the evening. And obviously that was designed so we could give everyone who wanted to come along opportunity to come and get some flexibility and some of the times during the day to suit their needs. So those sessions went really well. The architects and also our project managers from Public Works were really, really impressed with the feedback they got, and we're really happy with the way they went. So the next stage for them, obviously I took a lot of notes over the 2 and a bit days. The next stage for them is we've given them a brief in terms of Council's decisions and the key components that we want to see in the development. As part of our brief to them, they now need to give us a technical brief back, which goes into a bit more detail in terms of how they'll respond to that and how they see the building working, which is really, I suppose, a written version of their to-be drawn plans. So that'll come back to Council to review. As part of that, they'll give us a summary of the key issues and learnings from those 2 and a bit days. Once we sign off on that, then they can get into actually putting pen to paper and actually starting to draw up concept plans or draft plans. So the next stage then will be that they, under their brief, need to produce 3 concepts. They'll present those to Council, and they'll then go out to broader community consultation. We're looking at probably around a 6 to 8 week period, which will overlap with Christmas and go into February. And then from there, all that feedback will come back to Council to consider, and then Council will make a decision on which of the 3, or maybe a combination of 3, maybe elements we like from all 3, depending on what the feedback is and how we see it operating. But based on that feedback, Council will make a decision, and then the architects can go away and finalise a design for the actual centre, which will inform DA process, development application process, and then detail engineering and electrical, etc. designs. So hopefully by middle of next year we will have a final detailed design for the centre.
Fantastic. Sounds great.
It's exciting times.
It is, yes.
So So, as a lot of the money's on the bank. We are a step closer to securing that. The grant applications we have applied for have been based, as I said, on the concept plan adopted by council, with indexing for costs, because as you know, costs go up, and that original estimate of cost is now a couple of years old. Plus, there are a number of exclusions that were identified in that original quantity surveyor's estimate of the cost. So we've allowed for that in terms of the grants that we've applied for, so we can hopefully fully fund the costs through grant funds from both the New South Wales and Australian government. So there's going to be no direct cost to community construction, just for the operation, which will be the ongoing cost, which we need to meet through rates and fees and charges.
Thank you, Lizzie.
Stephen.
Actually, Stephen hasn't been to one of our meetings before, so
It might be good, Steve, if you just introduce yourself and give an outline of what your role is and who you are and
yeah, and how do you
where you come from.
He's a whiz at trivia, I know that.
Yeah, we do our own trivia. So I've lived here for a bit over 10 years. My background was I worked at Defence for 21 years in a variety of roles. A lot of them were in project management, program management. Then moved into training and actually taught project management as well as contracting and procurement. Did that for a number of years. Unfortunately, the training market dropped off when the global financial crisis hit. So I then went back into project management. I was did a couple of projects in immigration and then moved across to the Australian Border Force. And then was lucky enough to get a job at council in the purchasing and stores depot, and then they very fortunately advertised this job, which I took. So Lindsay made a very good choice, I feel.
and it's great to have somebody in this role who is a local too, so that's I think
And
that's
a
an
swimmer.
extra. And a swimmer
And a
too, so
swimmer.
there you go.
So yes, so basically, yeah, I guess project coordinator, so I'm sort of the bridge between public works who are doing, looking more on the construction side, but also I'm more interested in all the council aspects, including how we're going to transition from project to business as usual, the operating model that will run the centre, the management regime, as well as still wearing my project management hat to make sure that all the key deliverables get met when they're meant to be met, including all the work we did with the focus groups last week. So that's basically where I sort of fit into the equation.
Do you want to give us a little overview on some of the key findings out of those folks without preempting anything? Just some high-level observations?
Yep, so I'll put the same disclaimer for those who were at the focus group. We'll heard my disclaimer that whilst we heard everything that everyone said, it's going to be impossible to give everyone everything they wanted. So what we want to try and do is take the key.
You've got a big white beard and red suit.
That's very much the case, yeah, and my sack's probably not as big either. So the focus groups, the intent of the focus groups was to take a broad cross-section of the community, put them around their area of interest or where they specialised. We made sure that everyone who came was given an opportunity to present their views and made sure the architects listened predominantly to what they had. Obviously they had some questions as well, but it was really an opportunity for the community to give us some insight into what their expectations of the centre are, how they're going to use the centre, what sort of things they expect to see in the centre. So it's building on that business case that was done by Adi, but it was a chance to refresh it now that we've appointed the architects. A couple of big themes that came through was what we're now calling wellness. A lot of different groups talked about the heated pool and how that can be used for therapy, for exercise, but it wasn't just at the older end of the community. Like a lot of it was also looked at rehabilitation for sporting clubs after a lot of, on the Mondays after they've been bashed around in a physical contest. But also, looking to target water aerobics and things like that, not necessarily focusing on the older demographic, again, trying to take it more into a boot camp type thing. We also looked at how that might then fold up into the gym. I know the gym's been a bit contentious on some issues. The business meeting certainly came through strong that they didn't want duplication of what we've got in the facility which already exists, so we heard that loud and clear. So we're sort of looking maybe at the gym sort of fitting into that wellness thing, so maybe a bit more of the Pilates, general exercise, again helping people with rehab, so that type of thing. The other big thing that came through was price point. just about every group talked about how we're going to price it so it's affordable. So there's a tension there between making sure that the facility itself is not a huge drain on ratepayers, but at the same time it needs to be balanced enough that people actually want to come and utilise the facility. So we've got a lot of people that we need to talk to try and work out where that sweet spot is, where it's sustainable but not too expensive. So that was definitely a theme right across the board. The other one was the architects asked everyone individually, you know, what's special about Eurobodalla, what makes Eurobodalla unique, and so they're trying to look for a theme for the building, and just about every group said water. Really, in fact, I'd probably say 80 to 90% said water, irrespective of whether it was business, age, swimmers obviously, the arts people. There was a little bit of the bush, the mountains, yeah, the whole nature thing, the pristine beaches, but the big theme was always the water. So we've taken a lot of that on. The architects will now look at all those things, and it's literally like trying to put the jigsaw together now. So I understand all the different aspects. How can we design the facility within the space we've got for the budget that we've got to get the right outcome for everybody? So it's pretty much where we're at.
And there was also talk about the like the exterior of the building, making that's where sort of the water can come in, but making sure that we've got a building that looks lovely from the outside and entices people to come in. So it's that, and I felt the architects were looking at everything as a whole. So the functionality of it, what's going to look good. They really said to listen. I was very impressed with them. The architects, can you tell us a little bit about the like their sort of background when it comes to building a leisure or art centre, and how they're going to?
Yeah, they've got quite a good background. One of the subcontractors is a company called Diamond Payne, who have an extensive aquatic background, and they've done quite a lot of pools. MBRS themselves have also done not quite an arts and pool, but they put a swimming pool into a lab. A lab. So if you look at this, the picture they showed us is like a laboratory on the outside with a pool in the middle. So it's not unique to try and blend two things that you sort of, you know, a laboratory and swimming pool don't quite sit very well. They have done different pools. They've done a really good thing in the New South Wales Parliament as well. They designed an educational centre. So they've got quite a good spread, and also a lot of their subcontractors, as Lindsay said, are specialists in mechanical engineering. So they've got quite a strong basis right across the board in terms of everything we're going to need in a facility, which I think is outstanding. And obviously, when we looked at the tender, you know, they were clearly the best of the four firms that tendered, and a lot of it was based on their expertise and their experience in a wide range of facilities that they've built. They've got a very strong community background, so for those who met Andrew Trippett, focus groups, very much a community-based person, very strong in that field, so he was the one looking at that type of thing. And one interesting thing was we had 2 of the 3 days at Mackay Park at the Pavilion. One of the things that both the architects looked at was Beach Road and said, there's your avenue. Yeah. So if you look at Mackay, or next time you're coming up Beach Road and you look up into Mackay Park, they're already saying that's an avenue that will actually link, which was quite interesting because everyone just gets fixated on the highway. Yeah. They looked at it completely different. And when they said it, I must admit, every time I looked out the window down Beach Road, I was like, yeah, I can see the avenue and leading into Mackay Park. The other couple of things that came out were pretty consistent was the link to the CBD and the new bridge. We have already spoken with the project team for the bridge to get an understanding of how that's going to impact on the project. We don't think it will have much impact at all. We're pretty confident the 2 projects can exist side by side without any real conflict with each other. We are looking at trying to link the CBD and under the bridge as well to try and bring people up through the foreshore and under the bridge, and then hopefully some nice sort of walkway, bikeway up into Mackay Park. So they were the 2 other big things that came out. I think that every group asked about linking it to the CBD, which we're keen to do. Obviously, we don't want this facility and then when the bowling club work is done for those 2 to be isolated and sort of separated by the Princess Highway. And everyone asked about the bridge and how the bridge will interface. I think The bridge will just streamline the traffic flows and give us a chance to go underneath and link the foreshore, but there's not a strong or any sort of conflicting ideas between what we're trying to do and what the bridge wants to do.
I might just add to that because I'm also on the Foreshore Advisory Committee for the RMS, and although a lot of it is in confidence, I know I can speak as from a council perspective that we are pushing very heavily for them to take that into consideration. So whilst it's outside the scope of the RMS's project, so they won't be building the walkway, what we have clearly said to them is in the design and the forward planning for it, that we very much want that link to happen on the western side of the highway, so that, you know, a lot of you probably saw what happened when they had the Red Hot Summer Tour, for example. And Batemans Bay on that day was absolutely packed. It was vibrant, there was stuff going on everywhere. And then most of the people couldn't park at Mackay Park. There was just never going to be enough parking for 5,000 people to be able to park on site. So people were pre-warned, park off site. They did. They utilised all the restaurants and pubs and everything were full in town, and then everybody gravitated to the event when it was on. So we're seeing the same, we would like to see the same vision be that when there's a beautiful event on or there's something fantastic going on at the aquatic space, that people go into town, they might have lunch there, they might, you know, hang out on the foreshore, whatever, park there and be able to walk through, and it should be spectacular with that link. So we're really focused on doing our best to ensure that that connectivity is well and truly highlighted, so that we don't end up with this impenetrable force. But everybody is aware of that, so we're really trying to focus on making sure that that doesn't happen.
That was one of the things I really noticed the architects were very keen on, was the holistic concept of it in relation to the rest of the town. Yeah, how it's sat within the town, and the connection to the foreshore, connection to the CBD, the different sorts of access that you could get, and yes, the avenue down Beach Road. There was that little bit raised concern about what's happening on the bowling club, because there seemed to be this uncertainty here that was going to influence the vision of the place coming down the bridge, or the vision of the place coming along the highway. So there was a lot for them to think about and what they have to work through. But I think there's sort of questions as to what's possible on the bowling club is going to be something that we'd love some feedback on at some stage.
Can I just comment on that? One of the things we've done deliberately is delayed going out to market on the bowling club site, and the reason for that is to address that issue you just raised.
Oh, good.
If we had gone out early, which there was some merit in doing, but the fallback position was that we didn't know exactly where the aquatic arts links were going to be located on the site. So I'm waiting until we get the design finalised. We'll then work with the architects around seeing design principles for our site, so that we actually maximise view corridors and don't overshadow or have a building which is going to be too bulky or whatever. So we're deliberately delaying that slightly, just to enable the design of this facility to actually influence what we're going to set up
as
on
part
the site.
of the holistic discussion.
Yeah.
And I guess that gets back to a bit more of a broader conversation around the fact that the bowling club is in council's hands is just such a benefit to allow us then to be able to influence. If it was in private hands, we would be effectively very constrained as to what we would like to influence. So we would have major constraints around that. So this gives us an incredible opportunity. And, you know, hindsight's a wonderful thing, but it is fantastic that we didn't go barrelling ahead, because now it will all pan out and flow, and we will have that opportunity. So it is fantastic how things have worked out, because before we weren't even really considering the bridge into the mix, and that has been, so it's very fortuitous that it has all happened now, because it's allowing us to really have a good look at all of those things: connectivity, how it looks, how it sits, how we use it, all of those things. And I guess what I hear when I consistently go out and talk to different groups of people is for the first time in a long time, people are really starting to have some vision and some thoughts about, wow, well, this is happening, what's going to happen here, and how does it all connect? Even tonight, you know, at the meeting with the foreshore people, even though John Holland's scope is fairly narrow, there was still a lot of discussion around, you know, what's going to happen with the connectivity with boats and connectivity, and we've had a cruise ship come in, and so it's really an exciting time, and it's an incredible time for people to start thinking about some of those things, because Lindsay, you might want to just touch on the next step that Council's starting to undertake is a Batemans Bay visioning plan, strategy, for a better word. And again, it's perfect timing. Do you want to touch on
I
that?
can touch on that. Just before I do, just go to Sue's point. Sue, one of those issues which you were raising, you might recall, were actually building to the brief through the design principles, which Council developed with Sunset Community. So they went into the tender brief, so that was actually helping to inform the process from Council's perspective and the community's perspective, but actually those issues were being considered by the architect. So I mean, I've got a lot of confidence that they'll come up with a really good solution, not only for the site, but for the CBD and Batemans Bay as a whole, to make sure those integration issues are addressed and the best outcome that we can achieve is achieved.
They seem to have that commitment, didn't they?
They do, yeah. Just one other quick thing that come out of the forums, which we haven't mentioned, really strong themes around the need for a creche in the facility. That came through in nearly all the meetings, not only for young mums, but for just carers and grandparents generally. Yeah, it was really interesting. It came through from a lot of demographic across the 2 days. So that's certainly something which we'll be looking at. And you know, it won't be a dedicated childcare centre which will be open, you know, all day, every day, but a room which can be used maybe if there's certain programs on in the morning or in the afternoon when parents or grandparents can come along and use the facility and have somewhere for their children to be looked after while they exercise or do whatever they want to do, go to the theatre or whatever it might be. So yeah, that was something that came through really strongly. Just to go back to the point that Mayor made, we started a couple of years ago now a process of looking at the vision for Batemans Bay. So Council adopted a structure plan for Batemans Bay back in, I think it was 2007 or thereabouts. It was time to review that because things have changed a lot more development pressure starting an interest in Batemans Bay. So we started doing some visioning work with the community. You may have dropped into the
CBD visioning work.
Yep. So we had some workshops on that and some drop-in sessions, a lot of really good feedback. We had that word cloud where people told us what they wanted to see. We had some architectural and urban design firm called X-Space who done some work and looked at the heights of buildings and what they thought was an appropriate outcome for Batemans Bay. So that was some of the work we wanted to start feeding into a new Batemans Bay revitalisation plan or structure plan, whatever you might like to call it. Around the time that project was moving along, although there had been an announcement that we were going to get a new bridge, we knew very little about it. And then we had the announcement where it was going to go, roughly what it was going to look like. So it was time for us to stop, pause and wait till we got some certainty around that, because it was going to have some significant changes in terms of how the Batemans Bay CBD was going to operate, particularly in terms of changing the way traffic movement was going to occur. So currently you come across the bridge, you have the option to turn left. When you come across the new bridge, that left turn in Clyde Street won't exist. So the whole foreshore Clyde Street arrangement is going to be very different, and therefore that is likely to change the vision and how we actually see the Batemans Bay CBD operate and how we plan for it. So now that we've got some certainty around those issues, that project will be commencing again. We've got a budget for that, and we've actually been waiting to hear back about some grant funding to assist us with that work as well. So you'll see that work start to ramp up over the coming months, but it's probably still, you know, a 12 to 18 month project, given the amount of community engagement which we need to do as part of that as well.
But it will certainly be speaking to all the other projects that are going on.
Yeah. All the other projects
So
we're speaking to it.
That's right. So that was clearly brought up tonight, because everyone, well, if you're doing that, then we're doing this, and we went, no. It's all being considered together, integratedly. So.
So it's really exciting times for Batemans Bay.
I just basically not related to the pool, but I just like to say the main street, especially at night time, is just absolutely beautiful.
Looking really good.
It's a real credit. And also, mini golf. It's a real draw card to the town. Is it going to get moved?
So mini golf, council's position has always been, that's the prime site in the corner. So in terms of the new facility, it will need to take that prime position. So mini golf won't be where it currently is. There's the current operators have a lease from council for that site. We're in discussion with them. Council's adopted position has always been that we will try and manage to fit mini golf in the redevelopment of the precinct, but there's no guarantee in regard to that. So the architects are looking at that and considering that. We'll continue to liaise with the operators. We actually had a meeting with them last Friday, myself and our property manager, and looking at options for them, whether it be on site or another site. But some of that will depend on what their intentions are or desires.
I reckon they should go next to McDonald's.
Is that lease revocable without any penalty to council?
No, the lease, if we were to cancel the lease, we would have to buy the lease back. So it's got about 2.5 years to run.
It is a nice broad card to the town.
Yeah, look, we acknowledge that.
Very nicely.
And if you remember the original concept plan, we had tried to allocate them space. And as Lindsay said, they will still try. I don't know whether they're going to be able to achieve it or not. But we do at council recognise that it is a pretty dynamic business and one that we would be very upset to lose out of Batemans Bay, because it does bring one of those opportunities for our tourism in particular and our locals.
Cross-generational too.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the things
I
that
think
the
so
Bay
too.
really needs is the cross-generational stuff. We've got
Yeah.
a huge demographic of over 60. We've also we want to make visible and we want to interact with the younger generations
100%.
too.
So council
it
has
does do
definitely recognised that. Whether we can achieve it or not, that will remain to be seen, but we certainly will be trying to work forward with them with the solutions.
And they're very visual there as you're coming through. So it's that and all that.
Information centre.
One of the other things that came through in the forums.
Sorry, Lindsay, the question was about the visitor information.
I just wondered about the visitor information centre, whether the mini golf could come across
That's a possibility.
onto that site there,
But at the
next to
moment,
Macca's.
at the moment, nothing is off the table in terms of discussions we're having with them. We'll work through. As I mentioned, they have a current lease. That lease, from memory, has about 2.5 years to run. At the end of that lease, council would have to go to tender again. So whether those people continue to operate or someone else operated or took over the site, we wouldn't know. But certainly we're working with them to try and minimise the impact on them, so that we can make it fit within the existing precinct, or be in a different location, or alternatively on another council site. And I've also discussed with them the option which they may wish to take up, and that is to actually find a site and develop themselves, so they've got actually longer term certainty and security if they own the site rather than leasing the site. So there's a range of options which we're talking to the current operators and lease owners with.
I think 2.5 years. What's the time frame of building?
As I was saying earlier, we would need to look at buying out the remainder of their lease. So we
Yes,
actually
yes, I
build the
understand
facility.
that, but you were talking about having a plan in place the middle of next year, for instance.
Yep.
When do we think we'll be shovel ready, and when will we actually break the first sod for the Aquatic Arts Centre? What's the plan?
I'm trying to think. If all going well, we go to tender for construction in the second half of next year, and then construction can start early the next calendar year.
So we've got about a year negotiation time with.
We would need to have some certainty before that with them.
Obviously, yeah, but there is a little space of.
Yeah. So we've started this going. We've actually been meeting with them since the concept plan was first discussed. So myself and the property manager have met with them on a number of occasions, and their question has always been, how long have we got to? And our advice to them was, you definitely had last summer. You most likely got this summer coming, and I'm about to go into. But beyond that, we can't give you much certainty. But now we're going to give them some more certainty.
What about where the forestry is? Because they're leading there, aren't they? That's a good block of land.
Up on the hill.
Yeah.
Look, as I said before, there's probably a whole range of options. We'll just need to work through those options with the operators and see what works best for them and council, and see what we can make work. But we'll do whatever we can to ensure they stay in the local government area and operating, wherever that might be. It won't be in their current location.
If you settle that early, and that's not would be an expensive
facility to rebuild somewhere. They could be rebuilding, have it ready, and just do a quick changeover once they get
That's what we're trying
a
to
new
achieve.
position. Yeah, so they don't really need to lose a year of revenue.
That's right.
Potentially not.
Okay?
Yeah, no, and that's
But
why
we'll be
we're
able for some outlays
Yeah.
while it's duplicated.
Yeah, no, look, we're trying to minimise the impact on them and provide them as much certainty as we can. A lot of those decisions are only their decisions to make as to what they would like to do going forward
Yeah.
as well.
I've just got a question that's going back to the federal grant issue. Now, it's moving to the next stage of that. How long is that going to take, and how is that going to be impacted upon by an almost inevitable change of government?
So I was just going to ask the same question.
Yeah, and it is a good question. So my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, is this isn't an election commitment, this is grant funding. So regardless, if this is locked in and allocated, regardless if there's a change of government, if it's in our bank account, it will be being spent.
How long is the process going to take?
Yeah.
So in terms of timeframes, the advice we've got is we must submit our business case within 3 months. Now, we can take the full 3 months to submit it, or we can submit it next week. So we'll be working to get it submitted as soon as we possibly can, because what they've told us is as soon as they receive it, they'll assess it and make a determination. Now, our understanding of the process, because typically what they do is when they, in the past, when we've seen announcements that you've been through the next stage, they haven't given us indication there's been any money allocated to the project. So what we suspect is that they've actually gone through and really fine-tuned their decision making, so they've got a much smaller pool for the second round. We'll get our business case in as soon as we can, get a decision made, and as the Mayor rightly said, once the Department and the Minister have made a decision, it's locked in. It's like the New South Wales government one. We could have a change in government in New South Wales next year as well, but it won't have an impact on us because we've already got that confirmation from the departments that the money's locked in.
It means the names on the plaques of the ministers who open it might be
It could be a different government, exactly.
Leave a blanket is that.
That often happens when you see certain governments work with people towards funding and there's another government cutting the ribbon. That happens often. At all levels. Sorry, Maureen.
No, I was just the same.
Sorry, Maureen.
First of all, I'd like to congratulate the Indoor Aquatic Committee for all the money that you've raised, and I'd like to ask a question following on about the federal funding. And in Senate estimates last Monday evening, the question was asked of the head of the regional development and local government about Mackay Park, and first of all she said that $25 million is a lot of money from the Australian government. She also cited the money for value for money assessment that council will have to, the criteria that council will have to meet, and that is a commitment from the public that the public will use the Mackay Park Aquatic Arts Centre when it's complete. And my question is, we know a lot of people want an Olympic-sized swimming pool, and my question is to council, how are you going to satisfy that value for money requirement to the federal funding body?
So the value for money isn't around the length of the pool, it's a business case to prove that council can afford to operate the facility. So we're confident we can do that based on the work we've done today. I acknowledge that there are people in the community that would like to see a 50-metre pool. I don't think there's anyone in this room that would say they wouldn't like to see a 50-metre pool. But part of our case and part of the reason we've been successful is making sure that we're building something which council can afford to operate. It's one thing to get the money to actually build it. The biggest cost for this community is not going to be building it, it's going to be operating it going forward. So we have met with a range of user groups, as from the previous discussions you would have heard. They included schools and swim clubs and the like. There's acknowledgement that people would like a 50-metre pool, but they're all saying that also they would use a 25-metre pool. And there's a lot of discussion around how we can make that happen. The schools didn't raise any objection to it. Some of the schools are actually using 25-metre pools at the moment for their carnivals. But the issues for them were things like making sure there's good bus set down so they can get their students in and out of the facility safely. Separate entrances for large groups, so as they don't have to all line up in a foyer in a busy environment, they can get them in and out quickly. Areas for large numbers of students to sit while they have got their carnivals, and they were saying that doesn't have to be inside a building, it could be outside. And there's been talk about wanting the facility to be able to open up for the air when it's warm. So the architects are very much aware of that. So look, I'm very confident that the community will use it. We met with representatives from over 100 groups over those days, 2.5 days, and the desire for this facility and the want and need for it was enormously strong.
And so the PWSA is happy with the 25-metre pool. The Public Schools Sporting Association, they represent 11 schools in this area.
Yes, they were present at one of the forums we had. And
they were happy with the 25-metre pool.
They never raised any objection to it, and they gave us positive feedback in terms of how we could address it.
And the Batemans Swimming Club's happy with the 25-metre pool.
Batemans Swimming Club were also represented in those forums and gave us feedback in terms of how they could make 25.
Can I just say that at the forums there was no opportunity for consultation. The forums were information sessions and the 50-metre pool was not on the table.
Sorry, I have to disagree with you. Those sessions were not information sessions. They were simply the other way around. We were taking information on. Yes, it wasn't an opportunity to relitigate issues where council had made a decision. As I've explained before, council has considered a whole range of information, including professional advice, etc. They have made a decision on some elements of this development. It's my role now to deliver on those decisions of council. It was pointless going along to those forums and saying to people we can relitigate these issues and using up that time when council had already made a decision. The purpose of those forums was to make sure that we were hearing from those community groups and from those users to make sure we understood their needs. So in the case of the swimming club was around things like storage for their things, a room where they can have their club meetings, somewhere they can put their trophies, marshalling areas behind the pools for when they've got events, spectator seating. So they were very much making sure that the 25-metre pool would work for them, and they're actually quite excited about the fact they'll actually be able to operate their swim club all year round rather than seasonally, which they have to do at the moment.
Just as someone who I attend 4 of the meetings, one from the Indoor Aquatic Committee is representative, and the others are representative from the Sunset Committee. So I actually got to listen to people from all different groups, not just from swimming. And these focus groups, is that what we call it? Yeah, focus groups. It really was a matter of discussion. It was an opportunity for people to speak, and everyone spoke very freely. The architects and the other professionals that we had there, they were very open. They asked us questions. We had the opportunity to speak, and I never at any time felt that I couldn't say what I thought. So I know I brought up quite a few things that people had mentioned to me over many years that they felt was important. For an example, Gail, you mentioned about the larger change rooms and toilets. So that I brought that up because that is something that you had mentioned it. As much as the information's already gone to council, it was an opportunity to bring things like that up, which might seem minor to some,
if they're little people.
But but it was something that you had gone to the effort to get the information, and I passed the information on. And I don't think anyone in any of the groups that I went to felt that they couldn't say what they thought, and they came up with some really good suggestions and some of the little things that were so important. I think these architects pretty well had a grasp on the situation because they'd done this sort of thing before, but a couple of times they said, well, the expression they used, that was a light bulb moment, or we haven't heard that one before, and they were busy writing things down all the time. So it's certainly we were not being told, it was us having the opportunity to speak out.
No, I'm glad to hear that, and everything is important, even the little things. But I think you're missing something, and that is the community values the 50-metre pool. It's a valued community infrastructure. And what if people won't use it because it is a 25-metre pool? Have you considered that, people may not come? Obviously you want as many people to use the pool as possible. But, what if people don't use it?
I think the information that our members collect when we're out doing our stalls and our barbecues and other information things we've had this discussion a lot with people, and it just seems to be a general thing. Yes, there are some people that definitely want the 50-metre pool, but so many people, when you explain what else is being offered, they understand that the 25 is what's going to happen, and they seem quite happy with it. I haven't spoken to anyone that sort of said, well, I'm not going to go to it. But if they want a 50-metre pool, there are other options in the area. But no, I certainly haven't had a sort of animosity saying, well, we're not going to use it.
No, I'm not meaning, I wasn't implying animosity. What I'm talking about is obviously you can't do the same things in a 25-metre pool that you can do in a 50-metre pool.
So what can't you do?
And also, how can you justify a possible funding amount of $51 million on a wonderful facility without an Olympic-sized pool? That's a lot of money to spend. And that's what a lot of people are thinking about.
So,
And you take the fact that it's a cultural centre too, and it's a visitor centre, and it's having all these other projects there too. It's just not an aquatic centre.
Look, and I guess, Maureen, if you look at the group of people that say they have to have a 50-metre pool, I would like to ask you, because I have asked this question before, of what number are we talking about of people that would say if they haven't got a 50-metre pool that they're not being catered for, that they couldn't do their fitness training in a 25-metre pool. I still haven't seen a number. And if we then start to say, okay, from council's perspective, we need to make sure that what we build caters for as broad a cross-section of our community as possible. So we cater for the lap swimmers, albeit that some of them are disappointed that it's 25 metres and not 50. We cater for those that need the warm water therapy. We cater for our kids that I consistently keep hearing from our school teachers saying, we've got a problem with our kids that they can't swim enough to save their lives. So we're being responsible in trying to cater for as broad a cross-section. Then it comes down to, okay, there is conjecture, there is, your group has challenged the OTM figure of $300,000 a year extra running costs, and that's okay, that's entirely, your decision to challenge that. I think whatever figure it is, if we only have a small group of people that need that 50-metre pool, then $100,000, $200,000, $300,000, which is the figure that's been given to us, I would find that very hard to justify for a small group of people.
I'm not sure that it is a small group.
Well, then please give me how many people it is, because, and what I will say to you is, then having to look holistically, we're all talking about holistically looking at our town. We've also got nearly 400 basketball players who are playing in a facility that's old, that's run down. So there's a large group of people that are also saying, well, that extra $100,000, $200,000, $300,000, we would like some of that money spent on our sport too. So we've then got to start to be fair and equitable, and that's the decision that council has made. That's the determination that we have made, is that it will have a 10-lane, 25-metre facility with all the other extra add-ons. We've had this debate, we've heard you, and council has made a decision.
I just want to shift focus slightly on this because I'm Sue Mackenzie from Perfects, which is the arts lobby group. We have the same discussion in terms of the size of the hall and exhibition space and performance space. It's not yet fully decided, but it's very much decided. And the argument there is almost the same as like and it was a big discussion with the architects, is what is the nature of the community? What is the nature of the community in its present activities, and how will they blossom or grow or change with the new facility? And so in the size of the hall, for instance, and in the nature of the hall, we have that same discussion. And eventually a decision will have to be made as to how the needs of the community are going to be accommodated in the best way possible. We don't presume, the arts people, performance arts people, don't presume we're going to get everything we want. We've been sewing up the suit, but it doesn't seem to be getting any more ready. And we understand that we're going to have to accept shortfall on that and bonuses somewhere else. And the shortfalls, you know, we'll have our point of view about that. But we want to be engaged with council with that to make that decision, so that when the decision is made, we're very happy to accept it. We see the reason for it. But it's not as if the pool has the only discussion about what they want and what they don't want. It's very much in the arts arena too, and sometimes that can be forgotten.
And that's exactly right. And that's where we've really appreciated the goodwill that most have come to this process with, is accepting that, okay, not everybody's going to get everything that they want.
No.
But
I'd love a 50-metre pool if it was possible.
Yeah.
But
and
I'd love a, you know, for at least 3 theatres.
At least with the greatest of respect to those in our community that have said we would like a 50-metre pool, and those in the community that have said we would like, you know, a bigger theatre space and those types of things.
And the smaller one and the bigger one.
Council has not been dismissive of those views that have been put to us. We have thought long and hard about how we can deliver as much as we can with the budget that we have, with the space that we have, with the demographic that we have. So we have thought about all those things. Council has, I think 3 times now, had a council resolution to say that we want it demonstrated on the site, room for future expansion. Now, people have made the accusation that that's just a fob off and whatever, but not from my perspective. It is something that I say, okay, we have a town here that is going to grow, we are going to expand, and whatever we do need to think about those things. They may take 10, 15, 20 years to come into fruition, but it is something that we need to consider on that site. It may be that it is, you know, in the first instance under a car park, that you can rip asphalt up later on and expand if needed there. So, you know, they're the answers to those things. I think you were next, and then Peter said.
Just a very quick question. About 4 to 6 months ago, Andrew Constance made an announcement on here is Sydney money, and I forget the number, 18 or $24 million. And then a couple of months after that, there was some stuff in the media which indicated, whoops, hang on, you haven't quite got that yet. Can the Mayor or Mr Usher elaborate on that?
We have a letter from Premier and Cabinet confirming we have $26 million allocated for the project from New South Wales Government.
Yeah. Thank you. Good.
If I may.
Peter was sorry.
Yeah. Oh, thanks, Carolyn. Congratulations to the Indoor Aquatic Committee. You've achieved your goal, and that's to be applauded. $51 million being down in front of you is massive. One of the biggest amounts of money ever to come into this shire to be put before the council to spend. And I congratulate the council for the work that they've done in almost shoring that up. However, let me say this, that we were not consulted. I'm part of this community, and I've been banned from going to any of the planning sessions and the forums. I want to know why that has happened, and why have I been accused of being a troublemaker by Lindsay Usher, when all I've been endeavouring to do is promote a case for the needs of the growing community. And it's been explained by our Mayor that we are a growing community. We're one of the largest areas in Eurobodalla on the north end. We've got probably 78% of the population. Yet we seem to be not considering and putting all of the needs of the community on the table. You're selling us short in that we are expected to accept what the council is giving us. In other words, we as a community were not consulted. There was not a full survey of the community to find out if they preferred a 50 metre or an Olympic pool to a 25 metre pool. And in regard to affordability, we were promised and given an undertaking by the Mayor and at least 2 meetings that we would be given the comparative construction and recurrent annual running costs of an 8-lane or an Olympic pool and the 10-lane 25 metre pool. Now we haven't got that. And please, could you compare these costs with the costs of the other 4 water bodies? For example, the 10 metre hydrotherapy pool, the slide, the paddle pool and the program pool. You may recall, Liz, that you gave us that undertaking to provide the member for Bega, Andrew Constance, and the public with these costs at 2 previous meetings. We still haven't got them, yet you're saying and maintaining that we can't afford it. I'm saying that we've got the evidence, we've done the research to say that we can afford it. We've afforded a 50 metre pool for 52 years plus, and there's been no issue about that, except when we found out, and I don't know how, can someone explain how the Hanging Rock complex is not being built now? Because that's on the books, isn't it? That's a motion that's passed, and we should be building the complex now, according to the council books, at the Aquatic Centre site at Hanging Rock. And a lot of the information and research information that's been transferred from the Hanging Rock issue and surveys has suddenly been transferred to the site of the current pool at Mackay Park. And the bowling club was part of that issue as well. So it's been a very messy and a very complicated process. And what I'm saying is this: our group has been denied access at this stage, and yet we were promised it. And I think we deserve an answer, and we also deserve to be treated with respect. And also, well, Mr. Rush, you can do that sort of thing, and what you're doing now is showing this. Well, you're showing disrespect in my view. So this affordability question has not been answered, and I think we can afford it. You've got a gift of $51 million. What's the problem? Why can't we afford it?
It's not in the bank.
I'd like to just address a couple of the things that you raised, and perhaps Lindsay can elaborate on some of the other things that you raised, Peter. But if you demand respect, then you need to behave in a respectful manner at times too.
Actually, respect is earned, it's not given.
That's exactly right. Now, you have, in my opinion, personally to me, behaved very poorly in some instances. So when you ask me to listen to you, you make it very difficult when you are abusive, when you object. You have been abusive in the council chamber to the point where I have actually had to ask you to consider leaving, Mr. Corbett. So I would say to you, and what I said to the rest of the group, is I congratulated them on their willingness to come forward with goodwill, to work in a constructive manner, and unfortunately they are things that I have not seen displayed by yourself, Mr. Collin, and I apologise if you find that feedback offensive in any way, but that is how I have felt through this process, very disrespected from yourself.
Carolyn, I take umbrage at that accusation that I've been abusive. I've never been abusive in the council chambers. I need clarification of that. That's an unfair.
I would like to speak.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for your comments this evening. And we understand that the group that you belong to, we understand where you are coming from and your thoughts, which we have heard, what you've said tonight, we've heard those sort of things before. At our last meeting, you were very disrespectful to our meeting, and I didn't know how to explain how I felt. I felt attacked. So I would like to say that if you have any issues with council, any council member, that you take it up with them in your time, not in my time, or my committee's time. Tonight we're here to hear about what council has achieved, what our committee has achieved, and how it's going to go forward. So if the issues regarding the 50-metre pool, I would just appreciate it if we can leave that out of tonight's meeting, because that's not what tonight was about. And if you have got problems, that is something you need to discuss with council direct, because it's not something our committee is willing to get involved in. So thank you very much for your comments, but I'd like you to leave it at that.
Can I respond to that?
Yes.
On the very issues that you say the meeting is about, I have a question for you. And like Peter and like Maureen, I congratulate you in conjunction with the council and your role on the Sunset Committee for what looks like a fantastic achievement. $51 million is as significant as it comes as far as community funding goes. You've been working, I understand, people before you've been working, what, 20 years? 30 years? Raising funds for this, and we heard tonight you've got something like 76,000 in the bank, is it? Yeah. All up. Again, that's a lot of money. My question is, what do you believe BBIACC is going to have to purchase to deck out the complex, the aqua side of the complex? Is that going to be for anyone's exclusive use, or is it for whole community use? And what do you think it's going to cost you to upkeep that equipment, whatever it is? Can you give us an example of what you believe you might have to purchase?
At this stage, we are unsure as to what we'll spend the money on, purely because we've been waiting to see what was going to go into the complex. And now we've got a bit more of an idea of what's going to be included, and now we are open to suggestions as to equipment that will be needed. So the decisions have not been made yet. As to ongoing upkeep for it, it will depend on the equipment that is bought, so I really can't put figures on that. And we have not got figures on any of the ideas and suggestions that have been put forward. We haven't got figures on those. We have been waiting until the final plans, and then we'll put a target on some of the things and continue with our fundraising.
I mean, for instance, do you anticipate you might have to buy wheelchairs that are suitable for submersion? Or is that something that might come from one of the health departments, federal or state? Do you have any idea about that?
We haven't looked into that, as I say. We have not made a decision about what we will do, so we haven't used that time and our resources on looking into things until we know.
Yeah. It's tough raising money through a volunteer network. I know that because I'm doing it myself in other areas. But can it go on forever? I mean, is there a light at the end of the tunnel in respect of your fundraising?
I think there will be an end when the facility is opened and we have the equipment that we feel is something we can contribute and something that the community has contributed. I imagine there will be an end, but at this stage we have no plans of stopping.
Right. As I say, if you fail to plan, it's going to fail. Just keep that in mind. If you fail to plan, you plan to fail.
We've got plans, but we don't want to make anything too definite until we know what is needed. There's no point us going out and researching and saying we're going to do this if somebody else is going to donate it, or if it's something that's part of the council plan to do this. So until we know definitely what we have, And we are still open to suggestions as to what we can purchase, and that will be considered through the committee.
So there's no prospect of dollar matching on this at all?
We've heard
In
$1
the
from
arts
you,
area,
yeah.
we also have a little fund of money, but we're not as rich as you. I don't know which holiday you're going on, but it's, we're on the bicycle, you're on the Ferrari. But in everything that is built, whether it's by public works or by council, there's always something the community sees that they see that they would like as a bonus or as something extra, or they want some involvement in it that has a cost to it. For instance, we're thinking about things like competitions that maybe the community might like to be involved in, if it fits with the architects, for either some of the layout or some of the, sell a brick or work a mural or do something like that. Or whether it is that we might purchase a painting that is going to hang there and is going to be permanent there, whether it's going to be something in conjunction with the museum, so some sort of display or something that's permanent, something working with the Indigenous people. We don't know yet because we're in the same position as Carolyn. It is a composite facility. You keep sort of dividing it in two, but it is a composite facility and we want to work together. But we're both facing the same things, that, yeah, sure, we've got an idea and we've got the money and we've got the commitment, but all the detail stuff is not there. So we can't plan for that detail, even as much as we'd like to, until a bit further on. And when we have our 3 images or our 1 image, we'll have a lot more idea of where we can focus our fundraising for, and focus where our creativity really, because it's going to be both of us working on this creativity, and where we can do that. And that's when I think that we can probably answer some of your questions, but we can't answer them now.
Thank you.
Yes, I would, in this forum, I would like to say I've been coming to these meetings for years, long before Andrew Constance or anyone started offering big buckaroos. And in that time, there's been a very small, dedicated group who've been fundraising. People like Dee and Jackie, and I'm so sorry, I don't know everybody else's names, but I know a lot of you have worked really hard. I can't say I have, but I think it's up to them, the people who've done all the hard work, to decide about how to spend that money.
I've got no problem with that. I'm just asking if they have any idea of what they need.
You asked him for ideas, but nothing cross.
Sorry, I didn't mean to upset you. Fair question.
I just don't think you're acknowledging the volunteer work that's been put into this.
I'd like to ask a question. Liz knows what I've been involved in, and just about everything fundraising since 1974. But I want to know if we are going to have a person that is going to be a proper person to run those things. Are you going to allow them to have a room and you sort of put this person in that knows everything about helping young children, wheelchairs, all this sort of thing? Is there going to be somebody that can lease out a room and they could, like Sid Miller, taught the kids to swim? You know, are we going to have a professional around the aquatic centre?
So I think, Steve, I'll let Steve jump in if I get this wrong, but I think that was part of the workshops and the focus groups, just to really start to tease some of those things out and make sure that part of the business case that we've always been building is how do we get professional people into this space and make sure that, you know, we capitalise on every ounce of space in this.
Yeah.
If that means that we have rooms where physiotherapists can come in and do work, if that means we have, you know, specialised coaches, if that means in the arts and cultural that we have, you know, an in-house
event organiser.
Even like in-house artists or some things like that. They are the ideas that we're really starting to be teased out. And how do we allocate space and how do we maximise the usage of those spaces. So we can't have little boxes and designated to each individual. They have to be shared spaces, and part of the success of both aquatics and arts and cultural is going to be that we absolutely program them and make sure that we have somebody who's very competent in arts and theatre, that make sure that they've got vibrant things happening, that our community's well catered for, and then in aquatics, some of these health service provisions. So,
can I just comment further in regard to that? One of the things that came through talking during the sessions, the current pool manager from, I forget the name of the company, Community Aquatics, he was saying that one of the problems he has with Batemans Bay every year is because it's a short season, it's really hard to get a coach. And it's really hard to get people to do more than swim, because they come, it's seasonal, they haven't got a year-round job. But having an aquatic centre which is open year-round, he's much more confident of being able to attract good quality swim coach.
Yeah, well, you are aware that 4 of the Eurobodalla Shire managers of the swimming pool did all their coaching, etc., for free. They were the people that taught the 4 Innes boys to swim, my children to swim. They were just employed by the council. In the 70s, we had nearly 200 children swimming. Why don't we have them swimming now? Is because parents are working. There is the mothers didn't pick the children up from school and take them down for Sid Miller to teach them swimming, or the boy Hughes. That's gone because of this new change.
And the pool was across the road from the school.
Yes.
Well, you know, that's and probably, you know, in my observation too, and because I have a 10-year-old at the moment, and I look at the opportunities that are where back in my day, if you didn't sort of go swimming or you weren't part of a surf club, I rode my horse, so I was a bit freak on the outside, but you know, there wasn't as many opportunities that are available to our kids now. And now
no basketball
courts, no football, no soccer, no dance, no, you know, so there's so many more options available to our kids. But, and this gets back to this, the core reason why the Batemans Bay Indoor Aquatic Committee has been around for so long, is the recognition that we have a facility now that's only available for a very short season. So this new facility will be 12 months a year, and that's going to open up some of these opportunities to get the swim club and those things going.
And this is where Belinda's shoulders should be looking at dedicated buses that go there of an afternoon for arts and every aspect that it offers, and then parents pick them up after work.
Oh, absolutely. And what about, you know, the kids go to swim club, mum goes and enjoys some time in the beautiful gallery. You know, there's
But did bring up the issue of
good coffee, good cafe, and a bar license.
Two other key things that we're working on at the moment, which sort of also fits in with what you said. So we've already started to, and this is my defence background, develop a concept of operations. So we're already thinking about how the pools are going to be used, how the arts centre is going to be used, how the different spaces are going to be used. So we've already started to think about learn swim classes, aqua aerobics, lap swimming, wet and dry arts centres, what sort of shows we want, how many people think. So we've already started to map all that out. The focus groups have helped change some of that thinking, so we will go back but that'll be developed in parallel with the build. And also in parallel is we're starting to think about the structure of how the centre's going to operate. So what staff do we need, what qualifications do we want, how will it operate. So there's 3 things happening in parallel basically. We're working on the architecture and design, we're working on how the different components of the facility are going to be utilised with what aspects, and how it's going to be managed, who's going to manage it, and what sort of skill sets do we want. So basically that's all being planned now. The reason we haven't obviously released it's a bit like the conversation about what you're going to buy and put in there. It's too immature, but it's not immature enough for us to at least have a bit of a blue sky vision. So the 3 are all being worked in tandem. We're not going to wait 2 weeks before the centre opens and go, oh, who's going to be in there or how we're going to manage it. We're already looking at testing plans, when those people need to be available to be there to do the testing, how they're going to support the facility, you know, what sort of deals we might put up prior to it opening, you know, we might offer special deals. The whole raft of things, all three being done in parallel and will continue to evolve until the day we cut the ribbon.
So if I just, I don't have a question, just to add to that. Some of you may be aware that we're doing an extension to our library and doing a new exhibition space in Maria as well. Much smaller scale what we're talking about in terms of development here. But we're doing a similar process there. And Indy Carmichael, some of you might know, she's already got a program for that centre for the first 12 months, I think it is. They've got an exhibition date already locked in for when the centre's open. So all that planning is happening while they're doing construction. So we'll be doing the same with the club.
I was at the physiotherapy this morning and I was telling him I was coming to this meeting and said, do you think there'll be rooms available if we could hire 2 or 3 days a week to do other physiotherapy and things like that?
Yeah. And that is all going to start to bring our costs down.
Tell them yes,
because the more things we have in there, the more we're sharing the costs around. So the same in the lake.
Just checking, is it going to be a salt water pool?
No.
Those
final. I actually have answered that. So
in terms of water treatment, there's a range of options in terms of water treatment, and we'll be looking at that and making the final decision. So it may not be a salt water pool, but then it may not be chlorines, other things which we're looking at in terms of technology. So all those decisions will be made as part of the design process.
And again, that'll affect costs. Just the option you sort of.
I mean, obviously this will all go to tender.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been talking with the project manager up at Stromway, and they're a bit ahead of us, which is good because I can check with him.
I'm glad you've done that.
And I've also been talking with people who built the Aquatic Centre at Victor Haven in South Australia, so theirs is already open. So I've opened up channels with a finished pool and the Stromway one. I think they're just starting the earthworks, so him and I have regular chats to see, and they've offered me anything that I want, their lessons learned and things like that. So that's also helping us to make sure that we try and get it right. One of the things they've talked about is they seriously consider the stainless steel pool. Very close. Very close. Well, apparently that technology is really good, but Lindsay's right, all that stuff, because we're still at the stage of the architects actually putting up a blueprint together. So it's too early to make definitive statements on a lot of the infrastructure. You know, even the building, exterior of the building still hasn't been decided. We know it wants to be iconic, etc., but all that's still in the mix. It's just too early, unfortunately.
Yeah, mine's just it's early days yet, and this is my first meeting, so thank you for filling me in. Just timing, times open. Currently during the season, at the moment we're closed on Sundays in the 2 south pools, but this one here is open on Sunday. Is there a vision for the new pool to be open 7 days a week?
Yeah.
There is.
And
hopefully much longer.
5 o'clock.
Because I've just loved the Ulladulla swimming pool, and I'm so looking forward to not swimming up there every Sunday. One of the things that came up, this sort of topic came up in a number of different focus groups, and people were giving information about what sort of hours. So those sporting groups may have wanted it for recovery from their training sessions, or people that are working later. So, and yeah, they definitely did come up in discussion. So I know from the community's perspective, they did bring those ideas forward.
So just on that, that's one of the things we're talking to architects about in terms of how the building operates. So, for example, you may not want to open up the theatre and the arts facilities at 5 o'clock in the morning, but you will want to have the Aquatic Centre open. So being able to have the building partitioned so that you can have the Aquatic Centre component open to people early in the morning, and then if an evening it could be the other way around, where the Aquatic Centre shuts down, the theatre is still operating, and during the middle of the day, everything's buzzing and it's all happening. So being able to open and shut different parts of the facility, depending on time of day and what's actually happening.
It's all sounding really exciting.
It is very exciting.
Okay. Well, look, time's going on, so we might start to finish up, unless anyone's got anything really important they'd like to ask at this stage in regards to the meetings we've had and what's happening for the future. One thing that, as a representative from this group, I brought up as many things as I could at these meetings, but if any of our members have got ideas that they think are important to the design please email them to me and I will get in touch with the architects and be the spokesperson there, and we can make sure nothing's been missed out.
That is a question I do. What direct access will representatives from the community have with the architect?
We'll do all three, Steve.
All three, Stephen.
We need to just make sure we're managing that information flow. If you're raising good ideas, we need to be aware of those so we can manage that through the process.
Will you filter them though?
No. Everything goes through to them and they consider it all. At the end of the day, they'll give us their professional advice. They're architects, but there's also, and you know this from the forums, but we've also got a specialist in the arts and theatre space. We've also got a specialist in leisure and aquatic, both from a business and a practical point of view, and then all the technical people as well. So it's quite a big team working on the designs.
Okay, just finish up with Peter.
Thanks, Carol. I just like to know how the council is catering for the broader community into the future with a growing population when we're getting a much smaller swimming pool and limited seating capacity in the events area. Were either of those issues raised at the forum? I mean, we're a growing population. It seems to me that we're not catering for the future generations.
I feel that at the meetings that the community has been catered for, because we're looking at what, yes, we're looking for the future, but we're looking at what people are using aquatic centres for, which have changed over the last 50, 100 years. So I think that they have considered that to a great deal as to what we're using for.
Extension possibility. I mean, that's been talked about in the past in the lead up to this wonderful sort of amount of money that we've got, 51 million. What expansion potential is being built into the current design? And they're questions that the architects need to address, and we were told that that would be say during the mud map stage.
If you could go and see something about your hearing, that was things.
Is that acceptable in your meeting, that sort of a comment?
Well, it is if you're not a member of this committee.
I will actually, I will accept that because the questions have been asked before. So I think those things have been addressed.
So how, can you just summarise how it's being addressed?
It's been addressed because it has been, the architects has been explained that we would like it's in their hands at the moment to work on that with their designs. Is that correct?
That's right.
No, but I mean, Dr. Dale said to us that there would be contingency plans for extension to the facility and that it would come up in the design stage. I'm just wondering what those issues are and what we can expect. That's a reasonable question.
So that's something which the architects will get. They actually haven't designed the facility yet. We're at the start of that design process.
It's in their brief.
It's in their brief to look at it and consider it. As I mentioned already, they have specialists in both the arts and the aquatics area from a business point of view as well. We'll be providing advice to the architects. The demographics and our growth rates and growth projections have all been considered in the business planning up until this point in time and will continue to be considered.
Okay, thanks for that.
Okay. We have a last question from the other guy.
I just wanted to comment on your question before. I mean, the question you just asked then is just a rehash of what you asked earlier, and that was addressed. So all you've done is scramble it up again and ask it again. Forgive me if I'm wrong, but the Indoor Aquatic Centre has no control over whether it's a 50 or a 25-metre pool. Is that correct?
The committee.
The committee has no control over that final decision?
We have no control. We've put our suggestions forward and we don't have any control from our committee, no.
Okay. So 99% of what you raise, Peter, is that right, is a council question, and this is not council. If you need to raise all that those sort of questions, you go to council. This is not the platform for this.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, I just want to finish up with tonight to let you know that the AGM has come around once again. and that will be on Monday, the 26th of November. All seats will be vacated as usual, so please consider nominating. So you can nominate people by sending your email through to our Secretary Pam. Most of the positions don't involve too much work, but it's nice to be sort of considered. Sorry?
Excluding Carol.
Anyway, so we will have nominations that can be put forward. They can be done on the night as well. We do encourage everybody to come just for support, if nothing else. But no one will be forced to do anything. At the AGM, your membership fees and annual membership fees will be due for renewal of a total of a whole $5 for the year. So please come along, renew your membership, and join us with the AGM. As I said before, we have got the new question and answer sheets from Council, which were printed just before the Health Expo. Please take one of those, and even if you have got one, maybe pass them on to somebody else you know has been interested but can't make our meetings.
Steph, do you want to mention the fact that there is a website where we can put stuff on the web? You did do it earlier, but maybe it's worth mentioning.
That's there.
That's on that form. That's on there as well. I also popped into Batemans Bay Pool, and they have given me some information about their opening hours. And for those of you who are interested in the Aquatic classes, the program's here as well for both Batemans Bay and Maruya. So water's quite warm at the moment. So it's very nice in the water.
Can we still look forward to a full period over summer? Swimming period?
For this summer?
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's been no indication to me that they'll be closing the pool early in the morning. And I think Community Aquatics is, from my observation, I think they're doing a great job in sort of getting things going at the pool at the moment. So keep supporting the pool now and looking forward to our new indoor centre in the near future.
Can I just mention, just in regard to that, one of the things the Council's doing is working with Community Aquatics to look at what we can do during that period, when the Batemans Bay Pool will be closed during construction, to see how we can facilitate access to their operations in Marina. Those people who still want to swim over summer.
If anyone was a late comer that didn't sign our attendance book, would they mind just coming forward and doing that before they leave tonight? So I'd like to thank everybody for coming tonight. Thank you for your questions and your comments. Thank you to Liz and Stephen and Lindsay tonight, because they've given us some really good information, and I hope everyone's gained something from it.
Thank you.